Hello, I'm Ashley Butler. Think back to a time that you read a children's book that you found extremely interesting. What made it interesting? Was it the bright and colorful illustrations? Maybe the materials that were used with the illustrations? These are a couple of things that make author Eric Carle very famous in our world. Eric Carle was born on June 25, 1929 in New York. He was born into a family of German immigrants, and then they moved back to Germany when he was 6 years old. He wouldn't return to the United States until 1952. Upon returning to the United States, he was recruited into the United States Army and went to fight in the Korean War. When he got back from the war, he worked as an art director at an advertising agency. This is where he was recognized by author Bill Martin Jr., who asked if he would illustrate one of his books. And this is where Eric Carle's illustrating and writing career began. Some of his famous works today include The Grouchy Ladybug, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, and the book I'm going to read later, Roosters Off to See the World. His illustrations are very unique and make his books really interesting. He uses tissue paper and he paints the tissue paper to make it different colors blend together in different ways. He then moves the paper around to make different shapes, which then create the designs that he's wishing for. This makes him very famous and it makes his work very appealing, especially for children. He's had over 70 books that have been published, and he received the Laura Ingalls Wilder Award in 2003. His book, The Very Hungry Caterpillar, has been translated into over 50 languages. This shows that not only is his work famous here in the US, but it's famous everywhere. This book alone has sold over 33 million copies. All of his works combined have sold over 103 million copies. Now I'm going to read you one of his works. This one is called Roosters Off to See the World. Roosters Off to See the World by Eric Carle. One fine morning, a rooster decided that he wanted to travel. So, right then and there, he set out to see the world. He hadn't walked very far when he began to feel lonely. And this is a great example, this first illustration right here, of the colors that he uses and the techniques with the paper. It's really interesting to see. Just then he met two cats. The rooster said to them, "Come along with me to see the world." The cats liked the idea of a trip very much. "We would love to," they purred, and set off down the road with the rooster. As they wandered on, the rooster and the cats met three frogs. "How would you like to come with us to see the world?" asked the rooster, eager for more company. "Why not?" answered the frogs. "We are not busy now." So the frogs jumped along behind the rooster and the cats. After a while, the rooster, the cats, and the frogs saw four turtles crawling slowly down the road. "Hey," said the rooster, "how would you like to see the world?" "It might be fun," snapped one of the turtles, and they joined the others. As the rooster, the cats, the frogs, and the turtles walked along, they came to 5 fish swimming in the brook. "Where are you going?" asked the fish. "We're off to see the world," answered the rooster. "May we come along?" pleaded the fish. "Delighted to have you," the rooster replied. And so the fish came along to see the world. The sun went down. It began to get dark. The moon came up over the horizon. "Where's our dinner?" asked the cats. "Where are we supposed to sleep?" asked the frogs. "We're too cold," complained the turtles. Just then some fireflies flew overhead. "We're afraid," cried the fish. Now the rooster really had not made any plans for the trip around the world. He had not remembered to think about food and shelter, so he didn't know how to answer his friends. After a few minutes of silence, the fish suddenly decided that it might be best if they headed for home. They wished the others a happy trip and swam away. Then the turtles began to think about their warm house. They turned and crawled back down the road without so much as a goodbye. The frogs weren't too happy with the trip anymore either. First one, then the other, and finally the last one jumped away. They were polite enough, though, to wish the rooster a good evening as they disappeared into the night. The cats then remembered an unfinished meal they had left behind. They kindly wished the rooster a happy journey, and they too headed for home. Now the rooster was all alone, and he hadn't seen anything of the world. He thought for a minute, and then said to the moon, "To tell you the truth, I'm not only hungry and cold, but I'm homesick as well." The moon did not answer. It too disappeared. The rooster knew what he had to do. He turned around and went back home again. He enjoyed a good meal of grain and then sat on his very own perch. After a while, he went to sleep and had a wonderful, happy dream all about a trip around the world. And that's the end of that book. Roosters Off to See the World by Carle. Now for an activity for the children, I thought it would be really fun to create their own little creation of Carle's illustrations. This would obviously include tissue paper and then having the children paint the tissue paper and make it into their own piece of art. I thought this would be a great integration with literature and art, and they'd be able to make a creation that went along with Carle's illustrations, so they could kind of experience some of the things that he might have experienced when creating his books. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope you enjoyed learning more about Carle.